At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Being a marketer's no sweat. You just have to manage dozens of channels, launch hundreds of campaigns, score thousands of leads, and okay, fine, it's a lot of sweat. Unless you have HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools to help you do all that and more. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Ready for a statement performance, Dave? How about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, Mr. Matchett. Liverpool taking on Arsenal at the Emirates on Sunday. An Arsenal team that I think it's fair to say, Karl, have not been very impressive this season. They have won 5 of their 8 Premier League games with 2 draws and 1 defeat. They have won 2 of their Champions League games with a draw in the other. So they're getting results, but it's not like they're not imposing themselves. If you look through their games, they weren't particularly good on the opening day against Wolves. They should have been 2-0 down away to Villa. Ollie Watkins misses 2 sitters. That maybe 2 weeks later he puts away in his sleep. They draw at home to Brighton. They do go to Spurs and get a good 1-0 win. It's a 2-2 draw away to City. They go 2-0 up against Leicester, get pegged back to 2-2, and win the game with an own goal and a deflected goal. Then they beat Southampton 3-1 at home, but they go 1-0 down. And then they lose 2-0 away to Bournemouth. Now, they can posture and say, oh, well, it's the red cards. The red cards have cost us points. But there's more to it than that. Like, you're not getting red cards for no reason. There's a lack of discipline in this team. 2 of the red cards are for stupidity more than anything. The other one is because of a defensive error. And when you do have your 11, you're going to Bournemouth, who, with all due respect, have a ceiling of probably 9th, and you're lining up with 4 centre-backs in Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Calafiori, and 3 defensive-minded midfielders in Partey, Rice, and Mikel Merino. Like, you're not going out to win games. You're going out with the mindset of, we're not going to lose the game. That's odd for a team that should be, I think, given the Rodri injury and given how the league table has played out the last 2 years, I think Arsenal should be behaving like they're favourites to go and win the title now. And I don't think they're doing that.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair summation, to be honest. I think they've been good without being anything more than that in the majority of their matches. I mean, it's silly to take too much out of 3 non-victories, but I do keep referring back to the fact that last season Arsenal got within a point of their best ever haul in a league campaign. And if they're going to eclipse that to try and win the title, then they need to be near flawless. And you can only, if Man City have basically another average kind of season for themselves, You can only afford to not win about 10 games, like maximum. And Arsenal are already on 3. And we're only 8 games into the season, and they haven't been, in the ones that they have won, they haven't been like miles and miles the better side. They haven't been blowing teams away. Like they beat Leicester and Southampton by a couple of goals apiece, but they're newly promoted clubs who have barely got a win between them this season anyway. So, excuse me, it's not been very aggressive, I don't think, from Arsenal. I do think that they've got a couple of players, like individuals, who are normally in their first team who are not in amazing form at the moment. Saka started the season really well. Kai Havertz started the season really well. At the back, we've already spoken about David Raya has started the season very, very well. But in the middle of those, I would say that there are quite a few below the level of last season, never mind below their best. Like Rice is not impacting games in the way that he was last season. I don't think that the absence of Odegaard obviously in midfield is a massive thing for them, and we can definitely point to that as something that any team would miss. Somebody of quality of that standing in the dressing room and all the rest of it. That's fair enough to point out. But even people like Martinelli, who I think was poor last season, probably been a bit better this year, but
not good.
Yeah, but still not very good. And Gabriel Jesus has now barely got a role in league terms. Jorginho has hardly played for them in league terms. And I don't see that there's been a big uptick.
Partey looks very slow.
Yeah, I mean, Partey's playing like every game again now. And like last season, he was pointed to as one of the reasons why they weren't at full strength all the time. And I don't know. I think that Arteta is very, very risk averse at the minute. Whether that's because they want to keep themselves in with a chance of the title rather than going to win the title, I'm not really sure. I'm not 100% sure of the mindset that they have here. So he always makes a really, really big thing out of Arsenal needing to have the mentality and that to win matches, to go on and win the title and stuff like that. But the performance type doesn't really suggest that. Like mentality-wise, sure, I agree that they do seem to like be quite spirited and quite a lot of resolve to them and that kind of thing now. But I don't think performance type is actually to go out and win the game. I think it is to make sure that they've got a chance to win the game almost. Like, I don't know if you watched them in midweek, Champions League against Shakhtar, but yeah, it was a shocking performance.
Awful. You're playing a mediocre Shakhtar team who've been stripped of most of their best players because of the situation in Ukraine over the recent years at home, and you need an own goal to beat them. Like, this is a level of I don't even know what the right word is, but they just look really flat in the last 4 or 5 games. Even you throw in the win over PSG, right? They beat PSG 2-0 at home. It was a very defensive performance from Arsenal. The 2 goals they got, the first one's a goalkeeper error. The second one's a fluke. Saka is not shooting, he's crossing. It's for free kick, and it's the same as the John McGinn goal in the Champions League the other night. It's a cross. But because no one gets on it, and because it's well delivered, it goes in. But there's a big element of luck to that. There's a big element of luck to the goals they got that beat Leicester City.
And Shakhtar.
And even the goal that got them back in the game against Southampton came from Southampton doing a stupid thing in their own half. Without Odegaard and Saka, or Odegaard or Saka, to be fair, when it's only one of them, they struggle to create. When neither of them are there, there's no creativity in this team at all. Kai Havertz has lost whatever creativity he had at Leverkusen, has been coached out of him by Frank Lampard, who probably made him want to stop playing football, by Thomas Tuchel, who was getting him ready for some sort of jihad, and by Mikel Arteta, who he plays risk-averse football. He is trying to limit the number of ways they can lose a game, but he's not maximising the number of ways they can win a game. And he bought Havertz to play in midfield. Like, they can deny it till they're blue in the face. He bought Kai Havertz to replace Granit Xhaka. And it was awful. So he moved him into this other role. And to his credit, he's done very well there. Like, He fits that role really well. And I said the same thing when he was at Chelsea. This is the best role for him. You put goal scorers around him, and that will work. But the problem for Arsenal is that he's not a big-time goal scorer as a 9. Saka will get you goals, but he's not a big-time goal scorer. You look at his goal splits, a lot of them come from penalties, set pieces. He doesn't get a ton of open play goals. Their open play goal machine was meant to be the fella on the left, Martinelli. But Martinelli doesn't appear to fit into the style of play that Arsenal want to go with at the moment, where it's a lot of controlled possession, a lot of slowing the game down, and then building up quickly through those triangles on the right with Odegaard, Saka, and the right back on the overlap, generally Ben White. Martinelli doesn't really seem to fit all that well with that. Where Martinelli thrives, and it was the only way he got his handful of goals last season, is when they go ahead and then they sit back and they invite the other team on, and then they can spring that counter-attack. That's where Martinelli is a big weapon for them. But he's no use to them if they're not ahead. He's not helping them get ahead. He's not helping them break down the opposition. And teams, I think, are getting a bit wiser to their set-piece orientation. And without those two creative players, it's heavily reliant on set pieces now, and they're not having the same success they had last year.
Arsenal have 9 goals from open play in the league this season through 8 games. They are still a threat from set pieces, no doubt. I think a little bit of a drop off, which you'd maybe expect after such a successful season. But even so, I think 9. We're on 11. It's not like a huge gulf. It's not like we've scored half a dozen goals more or anything like that. But from open play, we've scored the same number of goals in total as Arsenal, but we've scored 2 more goals from open play. It does make a difference, like across the season. Man City are on 15, incidentally, if anybody cares.
But we're also 4 months into a new manager.
Yeah.
They're 4.5 years into this manager. They should be, by this point, the finished product. Like, you go back and look at when we were 4.5 years into being managed by Jurgen, we were coming off a season where we won the league title, which came off a season where we won the Champions League. And that season, that 2021 season, is actually where, for the first time, we took a step backwards under Jurgen because injuries kicked in. And what's happening now for Arsenal? Injuries are starting to kick in. And you see it at the moment. They're heading into this game at the weekend. Now, William Saliba is suspended, so that's different. But Martin Odegaard is injured. Julian Timber is injured. There's a chance he makes it, but by all accounts, not a big chance. Bukayo Saka is injured. There's a chance he makes it, but by all accounts, it's not a big chance.
I bet you he plays.
Do you think will he start, though?
Absolutely.
I have doubts. Tomiyasu is out. Calafiori is now out. And Kieran Tierney's out, but I don't think he's playing anyway. But this is the first time in 3 seasons that we're looking at Arsenal having this many injuries, this many doubts. Last season, they cribbed and cried because Julian Timber missed the whole season. But he missed the whole season. It made no difference to you. Like, it wasn't like a thing where he was vital for 4 months and then he disappears. He missed the whole season. Thomas Partey missed a bunch of games. But also, didn't you sign Declan Rice to replace him? And didn't you tell us all that Declan Rice was the best number 6 in the world? And didn't you tell us all that you'd gotten a bargain? And didn't you tell us all that Declan Rice was the footballer of the year? So how did you miss Thomas Partey if Declan Rice was all of those things?
Who do you think?
This season, they've actually got real injuries. The players that are playing and are vital, and it's hurting them. And I think it's going to hurt them over the next few weeks.
Ignoring for the first part of this question who the replacements are, who do you think is a bigger loss? Odegaard or Alisson? Just for the person they are, the player they are, their role in the team.
Odegaard.
Who's the bigger loss because of the replacements who's come in.
Odegaard.
Does that say something about what they've tried to do here this summer, with Moreno being the one they've chosen?
The thing is, what's funny about this is they bought Fabio Vieira a couple of years ago, ostensibly to be Odegaard insurance. And then they loaned him out in the summer. And now when they need him, he's not there. They bring in Moreno in the summer. I think they thought one of Jorginho and Partey. I don't think they thought one of them would probably go to Saudi at the end of the window. And I think they thought it was probably going to be Jorginho, which is why they went for more of a passing metronome type of player in Moreno. But they've left themselves short in certain key areas, and there's nobody to blame other than themselves, because it's not like they haven't gone out and spent the money. Like, they've spent well over 700 million under this manager. As I said, they bought Fabio Vieira to be cover for Martin Odegaard and potentially Bukayo Saka, because he could play that role a bit as well. And he didn't work out, and now you've loaned him away. And there's no question that if we're just ranking players in terms of a world scale as to who's better, taking positions out of it, Alisson's a better player than Martin Odegaard. But in terms of how increasingly reliant their teams are on their specific skill sets, they're much more reliant on Odegaard than we are on Alisson. If you were just bringing in a bang average replacement, take the league average goalkeeper and the league average midfielder. The league average midfielder is going to struggle to replace what Martin Odegaard brings, more so than the league average goalkeeper, because the league average goalkeeper is still going to be able to stop shots, deal with crosses, things like that. But you're talking about an elite playmaker in Martin Odegaard, a passing genius. And they have nobody to come in and do that for them. We are very lucky in that we have a very good backup goalkeeper. But, there are other goalkeepers that if Queeveen wasn't there and we were having to go and get someone, there's other goalkeepers we could bring in who could at least do a solid job for us. It's very difficult for them to replace what Odegaard does, because their entire attacking system is predicated on him and Bukayo Saka performing at elite levels every single week. And when one or both of them either don't perform or aren't there, they have struggled for the last couple of years.
Now, while we've obviously noted quite a few negatives or not great things for Arsenal at the minute, if we look at their league season so far and pick out what we would probably term the big games, basically against rivals and Champions League sides, they beat Aston Villa 2-0, they beat Tottenham 1-0, within seconds of beating Man City 2-1 as well, away from home. Ended up 2-2, obviously. So, as much as the football isn't attacking, let's say, and impressive, no doubting that they will make this weekend an immensely difficult game.
Oh, yeah.
Just on, if anything, bolstered by the fact that they are a little bit more defensive and a little bit more reluctant to lose games and a little bit more, first of all, you shall not pass.
My question for you is this, though. Well, I have two questions. Number one, are we sure they can do the same thing without Saliba there? I think as a pure defender, Gabriel is the better of the pair. But Saliba's recovery pace is a bit of a get-out-of-jail card for them.
Yes.
He's not there. Who's coming in to replace him? Now, if Timber was fit, it would be Timber, and he's got good pace. And you don't worry about the drop-off in height, because it's not like Saliba's good in the air. But if Timber's not fit either...
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha! This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Do you move Ben White into the middle and potentially play Partey at right back? Do you play Jakub Kivor on the right side of the two centre-backs? You're doing this while also remembering there's a big change at left back as well. Because if Calafiori's out and Kivor's having to play in the middle and Timber's out and Tomiyasu's out, Zinchenko becomes the left back, who is a notable drop-off from a defensive point of view from all of the others. So can they be as strong defensively is question one. And question two is, those three results you mentioned, they're all away from home. Mm. It's more acceptable away from home to batten down the hatches and park the bus. And that's basically what they've done. They parked the bus at Spurs, they parked the bus at City. You can get away with it away from home. You come away from an away game against a rival with a draw. It's a good result. It's a positive result. Can you do it at home, though? Like, can you put that to your fans that this is just what we do now in these big games? Because I think if they park the bus at home and we get a draw there, that's a great result for us. It's not great optics for them.
Would they care if they get the result?
I think they will a little bit. Because as you pointed out, you can only really drop points in 10 games. That'll be game number 4 for them this season. 9 games into a Premier League season. With trips to Anfield, Manchester United, Newcastle and Chelsea. Actually, the United game's at home, sorry. Trips to Newcastle and Chelsea in their next 2 games. Both potentially ones they could drop points in. A potentially difficult trip to West Ham if they get their shit together. They beat Arsenal last year, if I'm not mistaken, and they have the types of players that can cause Arsenal problems with pace and attack. And then they play United at home. And last season, United gave them a really tough game down there at the Emirates and deserved to leave with a point. And United went there and parked the bus. And United got a lot of praise for it, and rightly so. I don't know that you can... I've never seen us, ever, park the bus in a home game. Ever. I don't know that you can do it as a big club. I think it sets the wrong tone, the wrong message, and I think it messes with the mentality of your players as well. Like, your players start to have doubts creep in, like, why is he telling us, can we not beat these teams? Can we not beat these top teams on our home pitch? Should we not be going out and acting like we're the favourites here?
I mean, their centre-back choice, I think, is a really, really interesting one, because I don't think Kiwior will play centre-back, but I do think he'll play, so obviously would mean he moves to left-back. Now, that's fine in terms of he's played there a lot for them. When he came on against Bournemouth in the centre, he was really, really poor. He was playing right-side centre there. Looked very uncomfortable, performed poorly throughout, not just straight away after coming on, and was subbed back off again. So I do think that he'll play, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the left-back role, because the options there, like you said, Zinchenko's literally just come back. He's barely played all this season. And the other one would be Lewis Skelly, who's been coming on at left-back for them in a couple of games.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
Putting him up against Mo Salah
seems a bit unfair, doesn't it? So I think it'll be Kiwior for that reason. Excuse me. Obviously, Liverpool like a bit of a cross-field ball towards Salah, don't we? So that aerial ability from Kiwior sort of combat that as well. Not the speed and certainly not the sort of agility, let's say, in changes of directions, but one-on-one he'd probably fancy himself to stop the majority of Salah runs anyway. But then that does leave a problem in the middle. I would think if Timber back, you just put him straight in. If he's fit and he can start and he can run, I think they just play Timber straight away, to be honest.
I think that's what will happen as well. If he's fit, I think he will start. I don't think they have any real choice. The other option is to move Ben White into the middle, which is, of course, let's not forget, the position they bought Ben White to play in because the manager didn't think William Saliba was good enough and was happy for him to leave. And they paid 50 million to bring in Ben White, and when he wasn't good enough at centre-back, they started shoehorning him in at right-back. They could move Ben White into the middle, where he does at least have decent pace. He's not good in the air, but again, neither is Saliba. And then what do? Do you bring in... Do you bring Partey back to right-back? And then potentially bring in Jorginho into midfield, or you go with a Moreno-Rice double pivot? And if Saka is fit, then you play Saka right, Martinelli left, and maybe you play Havertz and Jesus as the kind of the 10-9 pairing.
Trossard has been the starter, hasn't he?
Trossard's been their best player other than Saka this season in terms of the attacking areas.
And he was crap in midweek.
He was. But like this speaks to some of the issues they're having. They bought Leandro Trossard to be a squad player. Like, they didn't buy him to be starting week in, week out for them. But time and time again, we've seen him be the guy that's come up big and got them the big goal and won them a game or got them back into a game. And he sort of forced the issue where you're looking at it based on form. He has to be ahead of Martinelli. He has to be ahead of Jesus. But he's not as good as that. So when he does start, there's just a lot of games where he becomes a bit of a passenger.
I mean, I think if Timber is fit to start, it solves a lot of problems for them, let's be honest. Because you can either put him right back and White centre, or the other way around, or swap them in game, or do whatever you need to do. That would help them out a lot. And even if you decide to start Kiwior centre-back, you can still put him out on the left if it's not going well 10, 15 minutes in, and put Jurriën Timber centrally again then. If Timber's not fit, then I think it would be Partey goes full-back.
If Thomas Partey is full-back, I can see Luis Diaz's eyes just lighting up at the idea of running at this, trundling cavity block.
Not just that, but the player inside Partey then is going to be Ben White, who's not done that covering role for... I'm sure he should be absolutely fine for it, but maybe not straight away, maybe not the first couple of times.
No, and if he is having to cover frequently, then you're starting to ask midfielders to cover back into centre-back, because otherwise you're dragging everybody across, and your right side centre-back ends up your left side centre-back ends up at right side centre-back, your left back ends up at left back, and all of a sudden there's a small Egyptian man left all by his lonesome over on the right wing for Liverpool with no left back anywhere close to him. Like, these are not things Arsenal have had to deal with because of how defensively solid they've been. Like, because they've been winning their 1v1 battles. And like Ben White, to his credit, has developed in the last 2 years into one of the better defensive right backs in the league. Mm-hmm. William Saliba, he's not nearly as good as people make him out to be, but he is a good centre-back. Gabriel has almost become underrated because of the hype around Saliba. And whether it was Tomiyasu or Timber or Calafiori, like, that's a strong group of left-backs who are all very good defensively.
Just as a slight aside, I suppose, in terms of options against Bolton, which you would say would probably be the only game really where they've not had at least three parts of that back four in place all the time. It was Josh Nichols, who's obviously a teenager, who played right back, Kivior and Calafiori centre backs, and Lewis Skelly left back. So, I mean, nothing to take out of that, but Kivior did play right side centre back in that one. Lewis Skelly, like I said, has been sort of covering left back. I suppose if Timber's not available and you don't want to move Partey out the middle, you could put Lewis Skelly probably right back. It's not going to be as big a shift for him. Plus, Diaz would be going in on his left foot, wouldn't he? So
yeah, and you do see some managers like to do that with a winger that cuts in all the time. They like to put a left footer out there because they're going on their stronger side. So didn't Dyche do that against Arsenal in like one of his first games at Everton? Played his wing, but there was wing backs, but he played a left footer on the right and a right footer on the left to counteract Arsenal's ability to come in field, and it worked brilliantly. I think they got a draw in that one. Look, it's not before time that Arsenal are having to figure some of these things out. They've had the rub of the green the last 2 years. Everything went in their favour. Now it's becoming a little bit trickier. Like, welcome to being 4.5, 5 years into a job in the Premier League, Mikel Arteta. It's not all like no pressure, no injuries, everything goes in your favour. There will be shit that goes against you. You have to react and you have to get results. And this is why I don't think they can just set up and park the bus against us. I feel like it sends the wrong message. And if it backfires on them, like if you're going to sit back and you're going to gift possession to Liverpool, it could very easily backfire on you. Especially when you don't have the same caliber of defenders that you had in the City match, the Tottenham match, and the Villa match.
I mean, they did have a lot of possession against Villa, to be fair. That was the sort of the different one out of those other two, but against...
They did after the first spell of the game.
Yeah.
But in that opening spell, Villa were very good. And Villa as well, remember, it's Unai Emery. So he wants you to have the ball in bigger games. But the other thing as well is, like, none of those teams have the players we have in defence. So if you're going to rely on counter-attacking against Ibu Konate and Virgil van Dijk, that's probably not going to end great for you.
Best of luck to you.
Like, I know Spurs have Mickey van de Ven, who's a freak athlete, but he's not the defender that either of our two boys are. He might get there in a few years and then get to Ibu's level, but he's not Virgil and he's not Ibu in 2024.
Let me give you this then. Another game at home for Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Calafiori. So I would personally say that that's the strongest four individuals. I know Ben White is obviously a starter most of the time, but
yeah.
Right, so that's the back four. Arsenal at home, 35% possession, 6 shots, opposition at 10. 2-0 Arsenal won against PSG in the Champions League.
PSG game, yeah.
So that's the only other, what we might term big game, big opponent, that kind of thing, where they were at home this time. And they didn't have the possession. They did get the result.
They did get the result because of a goalkeeping error and a fluke. But again, they had their 4 best defenders on the field. They also had Bukayo Saka fully fit and flying. So I think, like, if he does play, he's clearly not going to be 100%. And if he is on the team sheet, you'd very quietly be having a little word with Andy Robertson beforehand. What's he out with? A thigh injury. Maybe just go out and leave a little bit on him. Maybe your knee catches him in the thigh and you give him a little bit of a dead leg and we see how he reacts to it.
You're a terrible man.
This is you got to play the game. You've got to play the game. Like, let's not forget that they've done it to us in the past as well. So, like, and the thing with a thigh injury as well is it's going to affect his explosiveness. And if they're going to rely on the counter-attack, they need an explosive Bukayo Saka. What about our team then? So we've obviously seen very little in the way of rotation from Arne Slot this season. I think it's quite easy to pick most of the team going into this game. Quillian will be in goal, obviously, because Ali's injured. we'll have Trent at right back, Ibu and Virgil in the middle. Left back then, Costas came in the week and was voted man of the match. And I thought he was fine. I didn't think he was man of the match, but he was given the award anyway. But my assumption is Andy Robertson comes back in.
Yes.
Midfield, I think there's a question. But ultimately, I think he's going to roll with the same midfield three that he's been rolling with. I think he's going to go Gravenberch, McAllister, and Szoboszlai, and look to introduce Curtis Jones on probably somewhere between 60 and 70. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if he starts Curtis.
Who would you start?
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.